Hey, how you doing? It's Clayton here from howtodrawcomics.net and welcome to today's tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be taking you through a neat little technique that I came up with that I've fondly called the Rayman technique. And the reason that I've called it the Rayman technique, as you'll see, is because it allows you to draw up your character's arms in a very dynamic way without necessarily having to worry about how they're going to be foreshortened in space. It essentially allows you to leap past that obstacle and get your mind thinking on a whole other different level about exactly how you're going to build the arm out from the floating hands that we're going to lay down back into the shoulder, rather than doing it completely in the opposite direction where you're drawing the arm out of the shoulder, trying to think about how you're going to pull it back into the background or forward into the foreground with depth. So let's just jump straight into it here, because it's going to be a lot easier to just show you what I'm talking about and to demonstrate it rather than speaking about it. So over here I'm just using my pencil tool as always in Manga Studio. I've created a layer over here called the Foundations layer, and what I thought would be a great example to draw up here for this particular demo is some kind of four-armed beast. And just to show you a variety of different arms in a variety of different ways, and also to show you how we could apply this same technique to legs as well. So I'm going to begin with the head as always. We're just going to go real loose here, sketch something down to the page. As long as there's something down to the page, I'm good to go most of the time. It kind of just, again, as long as it's loose, and it can be rough as hell, but as long as there's something down there on the page, usually I am able to let go of the anxiety that comes with looking at a blank canvas. So I'm going to draw in the chest here once I've got that head down, again using the head to kind of establish the initial proportions for the character. And this character is going to be somewhat large, very, very heavy looking. Lots of muscles happening. And then what I'll do is I'll build in the trunk of the body that connects the chest to the pelvis. And once I've got that in, then I'm going to draw in the legs. Now, I'm going to draw the knees here first, and this is the first kind of, demonstration to the Rayman technique, where what you'll notice is I've drawn in the joint for the leg, and then I'm building back the upper leg itself back into the pelvis, like so. And what this does is it kind of allows me to create a little bit of depth and to decide where I want the leg to go first before actually figuring out how I'm going to get it to connect. And I think that that's a much more kind of creative way of working. So let's do it again with the opposite leg. So let's build the knee out down here, so we'll have it coming straight at us, again establishing or at least hinting toward the size of the knee and thus how far forward it's coming at us from the hip, and then of course just joining it on. Again, once we know where the knee is, it's just a matter of linking the knee back to the pelvis. And once I've got that in, I can begin building the basic forms of the leg back around the stick figure form that I've placed there, connecting the knee to the pelvis, and then I'll just build the leg back like so. So we're going to have a character who's kind of, maybe jumping or leaping in the air, so something that's quite foreshortened. There's a lot of depth within this image. We could actually kind of pull him up there a little bit, and then kind of make a little bit more room here for the lower leg of this particular leg. And then I'm just going to draw the foot in there. As you can see, again, keeping it very rough, very, very loose here. And this really is a technique that applies to the foundational phase of a drawing, not necessarily the later stages where you're going to start adding in rendering and details and all that other good stuff. This is really for establishing a solid foundation for your artwork that's going to essentially ensure that your foreshortening is hopefully going to work out from the get-go. So let's say, for example, really getting into the crux of the Rayman technique here, let's say that we wanted this particular character's arms, or at least one of those arms, to be coming straight forward at us. Well, the way in which I go about it is I simply draw in the hand first. So let's say, for example, I wanted the fist to be here, and I draw it at roughly the size that I want it to be according to how far forward I want it to come. Now, this may require you to train your eye a little bit in foreshortening, but just have a crack at it anyway. See if you can kind of come up with something, and based on that size, I can kind of get a good idea, or at least suggestion, as to how far forward that arm is coming, because I'm basically comparing the size of the hand to the size of the head in comparison. Now, all I have to do after I've got that hand placed in is figure out how it's going to connect back to the shoulder. So say that I have the shoulders here. Again, we're doing a forearm dude, so we'll place 2 shoulders up around here, another 2 shoulders on the opposite side, so we know where the shoulders are at least. And then I'm going to just place in the forearm of this fist, so it might be coming out about here. We'll have that coming back to the elbow, and then we'll just join it back onto this shoulder here, as you can see. And then what we can do, of course, is we can simply go ahead here and start placing in the surrounding forms of the skeleton form, or the stick figure form that we've established the arm with thus far. And once we've got that in, as you can see, it just makes it a whole lot more easier to visualize exactly how the rest of that arm is going to be structured. Now, of course, a little bit of tweaking is always going to be required with these things. It's not 100% foolproof. You still actually have to develop your drawing skills to an extent in order to visualize this stuff. But practice it a few times. See how far you can take it. Now, we've got 4 arms here, 4 different examples that I'm going to demonstrate, so that you can see how I use this same process over and over again, to the point now where it's kind of natural for me to just place in the hands and get them drawn in order to figure out how they're going to look. So let's have another example here where the arm is actually going to be going backward. So we might put the fist on this side round about here. Now, because of the size of the fist from this particular angle, and in comparison to this particular fist on the opposite side, we get a good idea as to not only how long it is, but how far it's being pulled back, right? So let's go ahead here and place in the rest of the arm. So we might place an elbow here, and then we might have the elbow going from here into the rest of the wrist, so joining up eventually to the actual hand. And then what you get is, we'll get the forms placed in there like so. Again, I'm now able to fill in the foreshortening information for those forms based on the positioning of that hand, and it's just a little bit easier to visualize exactly how those forms might be pulled back in space. As you can see, we'll do the exact same thing for the forearm here as well. Now, these form guidelines that I'm essentially wrapping around the forms here, I can actually highlight those in red for you. We might do another tutorial later on that goes over this in more detail, but as you can see, these form guidelines essentially help me out with foreshortening as well. But now we've got 2 arms placed in, going back in completely opposite directions, and you can see just how much depth has been incorporated into each one. Now, eventually you will want to kind of just try to incorporate this technique in somewhat of a natural way. For the arm form that I've got going on here, that's not exactly looking the way that I want it to look, so I'm just going to change it up a little bit, like so. Alright, great. So next up, let's place in the other arms. So we're going to have another arm up here. Maybe this one will be coming back as well in the opposite direction. So we'll go ahead here, we'll place in another hand. So this hand will be coming all the way back out there like so. And then we'll have that coming out back into the elbow and into the upper arm as well. So again, we'll draw out that form over the top of our skeleton arm there that we've got drawn in, linking those 2 forms together. And then, of course, back into the upper arm there from the forearm, like so. And again, based on the positioning of the hand and how small it is, we get a solid idea as to exactly how foreshortened, how distorted the forms are going to get as they're pulled back in space, just due to the fact that we've kind of made that association to the size and the already established proportions of the character. So now that we've got that done, let's have another go at bringing the hand into the foreground again. And maybe for this one, we'll put the hand right here, right next to his head. So again, we've got a much kind of a larger fist this time, indicating exactly how far forward this arm is. And then what we'll do is we'll just kind of place this back here like so. Now, this actually might be a little bit of a weird pose, so let's not do that one. I don't think it'll work. That'd be kind of awkward for the dude. So let's not turn him into a contortionist. We can still have this hand coming forward a little bit more, but what I think I might do is I might just bring him down a little bit, and I might place his fist maybe up the top here, just above his head. So we could maybe have it like so. Again, coming forward a little bit, getting ready to smash somebody. You know what? Let's actually bring it back here. I think this will be a bit better. Alright, again, the good thing about keeping it loose in the beginning is that you can essentially just prototype this stuff without having to worry too much about how it's going to work. Now I've got the hand in there, I'm going to pull that forearm back to the elbow, or at least where I think the elbow is going to be, and then join it back up to the forearm. And once those hands are down, it's very, very easy to just kind of, go back, work your way back from the hand, back up into the shoulder, and try and figure out exactly how the arm is going to work from that point on. But the fact is that we know where the hand is now, so now we're just kind of building the path back. I guess is kind of, again, it kind of shortcuts your need to think analytically about how the foreshortening is going to happen, allows you to focus on the creative aspect of it, because now, the hand's already there, it's already been established. You don't really need to know how big it's going to have to be according to how far into the foreground or how far into the background it's going to be, because the mere fact that you've got the hand placed down onto the page is already establishing that information. So now it's just a matter of, again, linking that hand back to the shoulder and trying to visualize how the arm will be foreshortened according to the positioning and the scale of the hand as the arm is taken back from the wrist all the way back and linked up to the shoulders themselves. So the process goes along the lines of starting with the hand first, like so, and then placing in the shoulder. Now, of course, we need the shoulder to be established in order to figure this out. So let's say that this is the hand, this is the fist here, so we can place that in like so. We've got the thumb, very roughly drawn, of course, not exactly my not exactly my finest work as far as hands go, but then it's just a matter of taking that forearm back like so, back down, and joining it onto the upper arm. And once you've got that in, you can essentially just start drawing in those basic forms around that skeletal form, like so, foreshortening them, or at least trying to visualize how they might be foreshortened according to the information you've already got there on the page. And yeah, I mean, for me, I just find that this technique works so incredibly well, at least when it comes to laying down the initial poses for my characters and getting that foreshortening established. And again, you can apply this to the knees of your character, and really, I don't usually bother placing in the feet first or anything like that for the legs. I do, however, place in the knees first and try to figure out where they're going to be, and then kind of build the ankles off of that, or at least the lower leg off of that, joining the ankle and the knee together with that lower leg. So again, that's just another technique that you can try out. I call it the Rayman technique. We all know who Rayman is, hopefully. If you don't already, look him up. He's that cute, weird-looking character that you see in the video game with the floating hands, no arms attached, just floating hands, and that's essentially what we're creating here. A character with floating hands to begin with that we later draw the forearm out of and then back into the shoulders with the upper arm. So try it out for yourself, see if it works out, see how it feels. I know for some of the people that I've taught who have had trouble with foreshortening, this has really, really helped them out in a big way just to get their head around the foreshortening process as their character transitions into different poses from different perspectives, and just in order to help them to establish that depth within the poses of their characters. So now, as an added bonus to this video, I'm going to wrap up this image, refine the line art, design the character, and ultimately render it out and give it a few shadows if need be. And you can stay onward for this video and check out the rest of the demonstration. I'm going to put on a snazzy, groovy little track to listen to while I bring that through to completion and speed up the process a little bit. But I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Be sure to head on over to howtodrawcomics.net and sign up to our newsletter, where you'll be updated on new comic art tutorials, tips and tricks, and products, promos, etc. And while you're there, why not check out the comic art community, where you can network and meet like-minded comic book artists just like yourself on the path to learning and developing their skill set in this dynamic art form. So again, check out howtodrawcomics.net, check out the community, sign up to the email newsletter, and I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy!